and a growing gap between the haves and have-nots. Look at the real estate market today. Look at the repossessions and people losing their homes. All this described the Roman Empire and a couple of thousand years ago. This is what we become. We become another Roman Empire here. This is precisely what it is. And this is not something that I invented, not on your life. There has been a gradual paradigm shift over the past couple of centuries. In the early days of America, so-called, there was morality, and morality reigned basically because the preachers were the school teachers and also military leaders of the day. And they relied to a great extent on morality in the 1700s there. But the Illuminati leadership of the world wasn't happy about that. They couldn't take that kind of stuff for the simple reason that we got to change these people's minds. So they begin to turn downside up, upside down, and made black into white and white into black. Little by little, over the endless decades, they usurped the common sense of America, and they implanted through mind manipulation. So your thinking would change your morality. And once your thinking has been changed, you had a new morality. And this is what we're up against all the time. We see it, we hear it, we feel it, and we taste it. Every day we have this kind of paradigm shift. And now it's almost shifted all the way, and the American public still lives in the land of Oz. There isn't any other way that you can look at it. They have not availed themselves of the only source of true information available, and that's you go back to the Bible. And that's where the simplicity of thing goes. We have a Congress supposedly to represent ourselves. Now, you tell me, have you really been represented by your congressmen and representatives all over the states? No. You have been represented by the New World Order boys, whom the congressmen and the senators in reality really work for. They have turned your head around. You know how I tell the truth on these things? Because when I say that to politicians, they walk away from me. And some individual people simply get mad at me and tell me to go and find another country to live in, because I'm not American enough. You see? The illusions. And you see the sign, God Bless America bumper stickers? You think really Yahweh God is going to come down to America's standard by continuously blessing us? This is the mentality of these adult people. Where have they been? And where are they going? We are now going at a progressive rate. It's almost mathematical progression downward. Maybe now we started out maybe 5-10 degrees, a couple hundred years ago. But the descent gradually increased. And it's almost now like we're going vertically right down to the bottom. There's going to be one heck of a crash, let me tell you that. And when you look at the founding fathers, so-called, who were these founding fathers? Now, let's take Lincoln. He was one of those guys in the early days, not one that signed the Declaration of Independence or anything like this, but Lincoln was a fraud. He was a crook. But they accorded him a tremendous big monument in Washington, D.C. And I went to Washington, D.C., and I saw all the stuff that's going on over there in the whole city of D.C. If this was such a Christian nation, how come it's full of Freemasonry? Everywhere you look, there on buildings and everything is Freemasonry. If it was so Christian, how come there's not a statue of, say, Jesus Christ? At least in Brazil, up on top of a big hill there's a big statue of Christ. But you won't find any statue of Christ in D.C. that I know of. But you will find one of Freemasonry. Albert Pike, he's there. Now why is he there instead of Christ? Why isn't that pointed out by the so-called Christian people? the Constitution is a farce. It doesn't work for any money in the world. It's an illusionary document. You study up on Lincoln and you find out exactly what kind of a guy he was. The same thing with George Washington. This guy was a fraud. He was more interested in land, and he certainly wasn't Christian. These guys were not Christian. They believed in a God. But there isn't such a thing as a God. That's Freemasonry. All these guys were into Freemasonry. All the way from Boston in the early days, there was Freemasonry. In the churches up in Boston, in the cellar in there was built tunnels and everything. It was a battle between British Germanic Illuminati people and the new ones setting up America, who was going to be in charge. I have a document here. It's called The Crimes of the Founding Fathers. The Crimes of the Founding Fathers. This is from a book by Ralph Boryshevsky. Ralph Boryshevsky wrote a book, and I'm going to bring it out here, show you the covers on it here. The Constitution That Never Was. The Constitution That Never Was. The Constitution That Never Was, you said? What is that? Well, he's done such a tremendous amount of research on this kind of stuff that he's really the one who can answer this kind of questions. And there's a tremendous amount of things in here, and this is not a theory. And by the way, you can find most of this stuff on your congressional records if you care to go and look at it. But you rather believe in the smooth-talking politicians and the smooth written historical account of it under a Christian nation, so to speak. None of these people go into the very beginning of the Constitution, before it became a Constitution. They go into the 16th, 17th century with the Founding Fathers, and that's about as far as they go. And they put these people up on a pedestal as if though they were gods themselves, and they're just human beings. And they were fraudulent at that in many ways, let me tell you. Fellow Americans, says Ralph Boryshevsky, due to the pervasive tyranny that abounds, this pamphlet must accompany your petition for redress of grievances. We have had nothing but grievances throughout the decades. Yep, we have been debauched, and we have been sold, and we are a liability. We are an escrow account in the world today. And America, there's a flag called the American flag. But what if America is not a nation? Whom then does the flag represent? Who is the chief decider of the flag in the sense that this is a country? No, this is not a country. I'll tell you what it is. It's a corporation. The corporation, United States of America, is incorporated. So, how do you become a citizen of a corporation? That's an interesting kind of a question. General Motors is a corporation. Ford is a corporation. You can work for them, but are you a citizen of General Motors or Ford? I don't think so. But this is the kind of stuff that we have to bear with in here, you know. I have written some quotes over the years here. America is the Titanic and we are the passengers. That's by me, the Illucitarian. Men should call upon the name of Yahweh God rather than the name of the politicians. And America is a corporation of ignorance. Well, I have a lot more quotes that I did here, but that's enough of that. So we'll go for it some other time, a little more. Let me have your attention to this little book here. None dare call it education. None dare call it education. No, but I dare to call it indoctrination. That I do dare to do. And this kind of stuff here, you know, I mean, it's fascinating when you look at what education supposedly represents. We spend all this, well,